Into the Pit. This is a game that I have just recently stumbled upon while looking for something that helps me deal with my pent-up aggression. The gameplay is intense and very fast-paced, very similar to the Doom games. You could say this is a modern-day Doom clone, quite similar to older titles like Hexen, Heretic or Strife. The game promises auto-generated maps with randomly spawning creatures in which dying is punished harshly. If you like fast-paced FPS shooters with colorful environments and a challenging difficulty, then I might just have the right game for you, my friend. I'm Dr. Sledgehammer, by the way, and today I want to review Into the Pit, a game that I just happened to stumble upon while watching game trailers the other day. The game trailers showed some really amazing gameplay that really piqued my interest, so let's have a look at it. Let's see if it's worth its €14.99 price tag, or if I should have perhaps bought something else like some new booze, or if I should have added maybe some TMNT stock to my stock dividends portfolio instead. Wow, these graphics are actually awesome. They're not the best, but you can clearly feel a gloomy atmosphere here. Anyway, our protagonist is wandering really slowly to the nearby village while blasting us with internal monologue that we are supposed to read to understand the game's narrative. You will find yourself struggling between taking in the pretty, colorful environment and reading the useless crap written there. Seriously, stop talking, you sack of shit. Couldn't they have just hired a voice actor to do this segment for them? I mean, this is really annoying to read. If they're having difficulty finding somebody to do voice acting, they can always pay somebody like, I don't know, Big Man Tyrone to do the voices for them, or if you're interested. My friend, I'm a good price. Best price. وحياة طيزي حبيبي. Best price. As soon as we arrive at the village, we find out that the pitmasters underground kidnapped most of the villagers. The remaining villagers are terrified pieces of shit who won't even show me their faces. The vendors straight up refuse to sell me anything unless I save a specified number of villagers. Sounds kinda random to me. Save a villager. Shouldn't he ask me to save specific people? Like, save my wife? Or save my buddy Jimmy, he's blind and has coprophilia. Okay, there's nothing really to see here, so the game is inviting us to get straight to business. Except for this rune thing. Why is this thing just randomly lying around here? Never mind, let's get into the pit. Here we get a bunch of runes and a talisman, or key as it's called in this game, neatly placed on a shelf the way it should be. So we grab everything and move up to the altar to place the talisman in one of the slots so we gain access to our first dungeon. You will be able to buy other talismans to open up different dungeons later on. Then we have a couple of rune slots in which we can add runes to gain attributes that help us in the dungeon. Attributes such as gain an extra 25 HP, for example. We get additional runes in the village once we rescue a couple of villagers. After we put everything in place, we can enter our first dungeon. Over there you have one of the villagers who is trying to explain to you the entire game in a couple of minutes. Now why the fuck would I wanna read text from a flying orb with the face of an old hag? It is not that I'm lazy when it comes to reading a monologue, it is just that the characters in this game talk like an instruction manual. They are as bland and unimaginative as it gets. Anyway, let's ignore her. The first thing we have to do is we have to select our weapons, one for the right hand and one for the left hand. And then we get to select our first defensive skill, and now we're good to go. Now the way this works is, you have 5 levels in each dungeon, the last level is the boss stage. In each of the first 4 levels you need to activate 4 altars. You activate each altar by causing a massacre in one of the 2 available rooms. The signs up there show us what type of item you get from each room, or mote as it's called in this game. I will get back to motes in a minute, but for now I'm going with the mote of luck as it's the most important one in my opinion. Before we start, I'd like to complain about another thing. I cannot use my trusty Logitech controller, because it won't allow me to move sideways. Also, I cannot set the buttons because the menu is broken, so I have to go mouse and keyboard instead. Which sucks, because as of late, I find the controller much more comfortable to use. Apart from that, the controls are pretty much your standard FPS shooter controls. One thing I notice is that we kinda have a floaty jump mechanic that prolongs each jump. This is a useful tool to evade enemies and to do some cool parkour shit to get places faster. Seriously, Faith Connor has got nothing on me. Our protagonist also has Autorun on, which combined with the jumping mechanics encourages you to run around like a fucking berserker. Now while I recommend that you keep moving to prevent getting hit, you should also stay vigilant as enemies can simultaneously rush you from all directions. Enemies are pretty sneaky and fast, projectiles may hit you from all angles and some of them may cause you poison or bleed effects. And mind you will have to fight with the same health bar the entire dungeon and there are only 2 healing spots. Now you might get a skill that grants you 1 HP per kill, but it's rare and insufficient. So you're gonna need to find the right balance between being cautious and aggressive. Your playing style will depend a lot on the weapons that you selected at the beginning of the dungeon. The weapons aren't anything special. You have, for example, your run-of-the-mill rocket launcher, sniper weapon, different types of machine guns, a shotgun. Now the game is trying to appear innovative by telling you that you're using magic, but it's just glowing hands firing the same projectiles as the firearms in other FPS shooters. The goal of each room is to kill all the monsters so you're left in peace to gather all the motes and to destroy the keystones. Let me quickly explain to you what the motes are for. The motes on the left are currencies, you need them to buy stuff in the village. The blood motes fill up your blood meter so you can resurrect yourself once during combat. Motes of renewal allow you to change the rewards you get from a mission, thus giving you an additional chance to get that one ability that you so desperately want. The most important mote, however, is the mote of luck. Not only will it increase rare rewards, it will also increase the level of the skills that you get. Instead of getting level 1 skills, you will suddenly start getting level 2 and level 3 skills. So you should first go for the motes of luck, fill up your blood motes, then motes of renewal, and the rest you can waste on currencies. So yeah, I have pretty much explained the entire game for you. The gameplay in the dungeons is fucking awesome, but everything else just isn't. The weapon selection screen is something that I just hate. Think about it, the idea that developers had is that you have to adapt your playing style to a new set of weapons with each dungeon. That sounds nice in theory, but I have to use the same weapons for the next 30 to 40 minutes, and if I die using shit weapons, I lose all my progress. So I rather have something that I like playing with, and I know what I like. I like to open up my attacks with the machine gun-like needle weapon on my left hand to hit targets further away from me, and in my right hand I like to have the shotgun, which is a short-range weapon with powerful splash attacks that I can use on my trigger finger. So every time I don't get what I want, I can turn around, get back to the village, get back to the altar, and I have to reposition my runes every single time. And that's also something that pisses me off. Why remove the runes after each dungeon? Why not keep them where they are and allow us to switch them out ourselves? It is really tedious having to look for each rune every time I want to do a dungeon. The gameplay is so awesome, so action-packed that it makes you forget how bland and boring the game's narrative is. After beating a couple of dungeons, even the appeal of the exciting gameplay starts to wear off. You will start to notice more and more flaws. For example, the game has maybe 30 to 50 different maps with varying enemies and a different terrain depending on which dungeon you're playing right now. After some time you will know every map by heart and you will know where every enemy spawns. As for the boss fights, there is only one legit strategy. Keep blasting this semi-stationary target while spinning around it. At mid health points we fight off a wave of enemies and then we proceed to murder the boss. And worst of all, you don't really have a good antagonist here. I mean, this guy right here is a joke. The only times you see him is after you beat a boss and he keeps repeating the same generic sentences over and over and over again. And let's talk upgrades. You can get all of them really quickly, and once you get all of them, there is nothing else for you to do in the village. At a certain point, everything starts to feel pointless. When it comes to pure gameplay, I might give the game an 8 or a 9 out of 10. Everything else, however, is a 0 or a merciful 1 out of 10. The story is non-existent, it's fucking boring. This whole village is fucking pointless. They might as well start the game with the dungeon selection screen. The shops can be erected inside the dungeons, and since the game hates showing us actual character sprites, they might as well make the vendors look like a toilet, so they can shove the upgrades up your ass. Man, this game was a huge disappointment. I mean, it is some of the best, most exciting gameplay that I have seen for quite some time, but everything else fucking sucks. I give the game a 4 out of 10. It is slightly below average. Now, do I recommend that you buy this game? Yes, I do actually strongly recommend that you buy this game if you're looking for a couple of fun hours. However, I do recommend that you wait for the next Steam sale. As for null pointer games, please take this gameplay and put it into another game with a better story and a better narrative. A game that has a little bit more effort in it. because this type of gameplay doesn't deserve to be wrapped up in such a shitty narrative. Anyway, I was Dr. Sledgehammer, and I will see you guys on the next Sledgehammer review. Bye.